Something unprecedented is happening right now. Women are posting videos asking, "Where have all the good men gone?" While those same men are in their apartments, perfectly content, playing video games and cooking steak, alone, and happy about it. Women made a calculation. They believed men couldn't survive without them. That loneliness would eventually drive men back to the negotiating table. That the biological need for companionship would override self-respect and common sense. They were wrong, catastrophically wrong. Men aren't just surviving alone, they're thriving, building businesses, pursuing hobbies, sleeping peacefully, experiencing health improvements that seem almost miraculous. And this terrifies women because they never saw it coming. By the end of this video, you'll understand why modern men are choosing solitude over relationships in unprecedented numbers, why this choice is based on rational calculation rather than bitterness, and why the women who dismissed average men for decades are now panicking as those same men walk away permanently. But I need to warn you before we continue. What I'm about to reveal challenges the fundamental narrative about male need for female companionship. Once you understand why men are happier alone, you'll see the modern dating market completely differently. And that knowledge will force you to make choices most men are too comfortable to make. But before we explore why men are choosing solitude, you need to understand what drove them there. Because this didn't happen overnight. This is the result of years, sometimes decades, of a specific pattern that finally broke men's willingness to participate. The breaking point. Let me tell you about a client. Successful engineer, 38 years old, divorced 3 years ago. His ex-wife spent a decade criticizing everything he did. How he loaded the dishwasher wrong. How he breathed too loud. How his hobbies were stupid and childish. How his work wasn't impressive enough, how his body wasn't good enough. Every single day, some new criticism. Now he lives alone, has his hobbies back, sleeps peacefully through the night. His blood pressure dropped 20 points after the divorce. His hair, which had been thinning rapidly, grew back. He looks 10 years younger. When I asked if he's dating again, he laughed. Why would I sign up for criticism again? This exhaustion from constant criticism is what broke the camel's back for millions of men. You come home from a 10-hour workday, and before you can take your shoes off, you're being lectured about a cup left in the sink. You sit down for 5 minutes of rest and you're lazy. You play a video game to decompress, and you're immature. You work overtime to provide better, and you're never present emotionally. Every action gets criticized from some angle. There's no winning move. The game is rigged to ensure you're always failing from someone's perspective. Eventually, men do the math and realize, if I'm going to be criticized anyway, why not be criticized in my own peaceful space instead of in a relationship? The pattern that destroys. Here's what actually happens in these relationships. She's not really mad about the specific thing she's yelling about. She's screaming about a sock on the floor, but it's not about the sock. It's about her internal unhappiness that has nothing to do with you. But you become the convenient target for her existential crisis. She's not mad at you specifically. She's mad at life, at her unfulfilled expectations, at reality not matching her fantasies. And you're the safest target. The pattern is numbingly predictable. She starts a fight about something trivial. You bought the wrong brand of milk. This somehow escalates into how you never listen, which becomes about how you don't care about her needs, which morphs into you ruining her entire life. 30 minutes later, you're apologizing for existing while trying to figure out how milk choices turned into divorce threats. This isn't communication, this is emotional terrorism. And men are finally recognizing it for what it is. What makes this particularly tragic is that men stay loyal even when they're miserable. We're problem solvers by nature. Relationship not working? We'll try harder. Partner unhappy? We'll do more. Getting criticized constantly? We must be doing something wrong. Let us fix it. Men will spend years, sometimes decades, trying to fix an unfixable situation because we're biologically wired to persist, to solve problems, to stay committed to our responsibilities. I see men who've been in emotional prison for 20 years. Their friends are gone because she didn't like them. Their hobbies abandoned because she complained they were wastes of time. Their families kept at distance because she caused drama at every gathering. They've sacrificed everything trying to keep the peace. And what do they get in return? More criticism, less sex, zero appreciation. They become shells of their former selves, existing rather than living, maintaining a relationship structure that actively makes them miserable. The awakening. Then something clicks. Maybe it's one fight too many about nothing. Maybe it's watching a divorced friend genuinely smile again for the first time in years. Maybe it's the sudden realization, I haven't been actually happy in 5 years. Suddenly, solitude doesn't look like loneliness anymore. It looks like freedom. No more walking on eggshells, no more constant evaluation and criticism, no more being someone's emotional punching bag. Just peace, simple, quiet, undramatic peace. And here's what women didn't anticipate. Men are really good at being alone. We evolved for it. Hunters spent days alone tracking prey. Builders spent months alone on projects. Warriors maintained watch in solitude. Male psychology is wired to not just tolerate solitude, but to find purpose and contentment in it. Women, on average, evolved for social connection and communal living. Their psychology craves constant interaction, validation, relationship maintenance. When they're alone, they feel it acutely. They assumed men felt the same way. They were wrong. The men who've chosen solitude report something remarkable. Life gets objectively better in measurable ways, not just emotionally, though that improves dramatically, but physically, financially, and creatively. The health revolution. The health improvements men experience post-relationship are extensively documented. Lower blood pressure, better sleep quality, reduced anxiety, improved mood, weight loss without trying, better energy levels. Some men report their chronic health issues improving or disappearing entirely. My divorced engineer client wasn't unique. His doctor was shocked by his health improvements. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, the doctor said, not realizing the answer was, I got divorced and now live alone. Turns out, living under constant criticism is literally killing men. The stress of never being good enough, of every action being evaluated and found wanting, of walking on eggshells in your own home, this wreaks havoc on your cardiovascular system, your cortisol levels, your immune function. Remove that stress and the body heals itself. Men look younger, sleep better, feel better. The physical transformation can be so dramatic that friends ask it if they're on a new diet or exercise program. The answer is simpler. They're not being slowly destroyed by a toxic relationship anymore. The financial reality. Here's what nobody discusses openly. Single men accumulate wealth faster than married or partnered men. Not because they're selfish, but because they control their own spending. No more buying expensive gifts to prevent arguments. No more retail therapy purchases to manage someone else's emotional states. No more costly vacations you didn't want to go on. No more upgrading the house for her aesthetic preferences. No more couple expenses that drain your accounts. Your money stays in your account, gets invested, grows, compounds. Men who escape expensive relationships often find themselves financially stable for the first time in years, not because they're earning more, but because they're not hemorrhaging money trying to keep someone else happy. The creative resurgence. Perhaps most remarkably, men experience a creative and productive explosion after choosing solitude. All that mental and emotional energy previously spent managing someone else's emotional ecosystem becomes available for your own projects. Men start businesses, write books, create art, build things, learn instruments, develop skills. The suppressed creativity comes flooding back when there's nobody calling your projects stupid or questioning why you're wasting time on them. I've watched men who seemed creatively dead for years suddenly produce remarkable work within months of becoming single. The energy was always there. It was just being consumed by relationship maintenance. The friendship recovery. Those friends she didn't like, they're back. Those activities she thought were immature, you're doing them again. The social connections that got severed to maintain domestic peace, they're being rebuilt. Men rediscover that male friendship provides something romantic. Relationships often don't. Unconditional acceptance. Your male friends don't critique how you load the dishwasher. They don't care if you play video games. They don't monitor your hobbies for signs of immaturity. They just accept you. This acceptance, after years of constant evaluation, feels revolutionary. You're allowed to be yourself without judgment, to enjoy simple pleasures without someone analyzing what those pleasures say about your character. The simple pleasures, the small freedoms men rediscover alone sound trivial but feel profound. Eating cereal for dinner without judgment, watching whatever you want without negotiation, leaving dishes in the sink overnight, playing video games without time limits or guilt, spending Saturday doing absolutely nothing without being called lazy, buying something for yourself without having to justify the expense, decorating your space however you want. These aren't acts of irresponsibility. They're acts of freedom. The freedom to exist without constant evaluation and criticism. The freedom to make small choices based on your own preferences rather than someone else's standards. After years in relationships where every minor decision became a potential conflict point, these freedoms feel intoxicating. You're not being selfish. You're just being yourself without a critic constantly looking over your shoulder. The peace that heals. But underneath all these specific benefits lies something more fundamental. Peace. Deep, sustainable, daily peace. You wake up and your first thought isn't anxiety about what criticism awaits. You come home and your space is as you left it. You make plans without needing approval. You pursue goals without justifying why they matter. This peace is addictive. Once men experience it, really experience it for months or years, going back to chaos feels insane. Why would you voluntarily return to a state of constant low-grade stress? Why would you trade peace for partnership when the partnership actively destroys your peace? Women assumed men would eventually get lonely enough to accept bad relationships. They didn't realize that modern men have options their grandfathers didn't. Online communities for any interest, friend groups maintained digitally, entertainment accessible instantly, purpose found in work and hobbies, sexual needs met through various means. The monopoly on male needs has been broken. Men don't need relationships for sex, social validation, emotional support, or daily companionship anymore. We want relationships when they add value, but we don't need them for survival. And once we realize bad relationships subtract value rather than add it, the choice becomes obvious. Why are modern relationships so exhausting for men? Because the standards have become impossible to meet. Not difficult, impossible. You're not failing because you're inadequate. You're failing because the standards are designed to ensure you fail. The contradictory expectations. She wants you to be successful but always available, rich but not work-focused, masculine but emotionally vulnerable, a leader but also an equal partner, confident but not arrogant, ambitious but not obsessed, aggressive in bed but gentle everywhere else. These aren't just high standards, they're mutually exclusive contradictions. You cannot be simultaneously work-obsessed enough to become wealthy and available enough to meet constant emotional needs. You cannot lead while also submitting to consensus-based decision-making. You cannot be dangerously masculine while also being safely domesticated. But here's the trick. When you inevitably fail to embody these contradictions, it's your fault. You're not balanced enough, not evolved enough, not man enough. The problem is never the impossible standards. The problem is always you, failing to meet them. The no-win scenarios. Watch how this plays out practically. Do housework. You did it wrong. Don't do housework. You're lazy. Buy flowers. You're only doing it because you feel guilty. Don't buy flowers. You don't care about romance. Have male friends. You're choosing them over her. Don't have friends. You're too dependent on her emotionally. Pursue your career aggressively. You're never present. Don't pursue advancement. You lack ambition. Every single choice leads to criticism from a different angle. The game is rigged, so there's no winning move, only different flavors of failure. And this is intentional, even if not consciously so. Because if you could actually meet the standards, she'd lose her justification for constant dissatisfaction. The moving goalposts. But it gets worse. Even when you do manage to meet a standard, it moves. You start making more money. Now she wants you more present. You become more present. Now she wants more excitement. You provide excitement. Now she wants stability. You provide stability. Now you're boring. This isn't growth or evolution. This is goalposts on wheels, constantly moving to ensure you're always chasing, never arriving. Because arrival means satisfaction. And satisfaction means she'd have to confront whether she's actually capable of being happy, regardless of your performance. Men eventually realize the dissatisfaction isn't about you, it's about her relationship to reality. You're just the most convenient target for her disappointment that life isn't matching her expectations. The comparison trap. Social media has made this infinitely worse. She's comparing your real relationship to everyone else's curated highlights. That influencer's boyfriend who rented a stadium for his proposal. Why are you only taking her to nice restaurants? Her friend's husband, who's is always posting romantic gestures. Why aren't you more spontaneous? That couple's vacation photos. Why don't you travel more? She doesn't see the debt behind the stadium proposal. She doesn't know the romantic husband is cheating. She doesn't realize the vacation couple fights constantly. But you're failing because you're not meeting these fantasy standards based on performance highlights specifically curated to generate envy. The comparison game is unwinnable. Real relationships cannot compete with digital fantasy. Average men especially get destroyed in this environment. You're competing not just against the actual men in her physical vicinity, but against every man on social media, every romantic fantasy she's consumed through media, every idealized standard she's absorbed from her friend group. The hypergamy reality studies show women rate 80% of men as below average in attractiveness. Think about that. 80% below average. That's mathematically impossible unless average doesn't mean average. It means the standard has been set at the 85th percentile. Women are attracted to the top 20% of men. These men have unlimited options, so they don't commit. They're juggling multiple women simultaneously. Women would rather share access to a high-value man than commit to an average, reliable one. Then they complain about men being players while ignoring the decent men who treat them well. The pattern is predictable. Chase the hot guys who won't commit throughout your 20s and early 30s. Get played repeatedly. Then at 35, when the hot guys stop responding, suddenly decide you want a real man, meaning the average guys you rejected for 15 years. But those average men watched this whole process. They watched you chase men who treated you poorly while they offered genuine interest and got friend-zoned or ignored. Now you're ready to settle and wondering why they're not interested? They learned they were never your first choice. They were your backup plan. The exhaustion point. Eventually, men do the math. Years of impossible standards. Constant criticism regardless of effort. Moving goalposts that ensure you're always inadequate. Comparisons to fantasy versions of masculinity that don't exist. Being someone's backup plan after years of rejection. And solitude starts looking not just acceptable, but preferable. At least when you're alone, the standards are yours. Your adequacy isn't constantly under evaluation. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's impossible expectations. You're free to be imperfect without it being used as evidence that you're failing as a partner. Women thought this exhaustion would be temporary. that men would rest, recover, then return to the dating market willing to try again. They didn't realize some men don't recover from exhaustion. They evolve past needing what exhausted them. What's happening now isn't just individual men making individual choices. It's a cultural shift. Millions of men independently reaching the same conclusion based on the same evidence. Modern relationships aren't worth the cost. The independent convergence. This isn't a movement. There's no leader, no manifesto, no organization. Men aren't coordinating this withdrawal. They're independently, separately, coming to the same rational conclusion. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. This makes it impossible to counter. You can't shame men back to the table when there's no central ideology to attack. You can't ridicule a leader when there is no leader. You can't dismiss it as internet radicalization when it's millions of men independently observing reality and adjusting behavior accordingly. Women are calling it a crisis. Where have all the good men gone? They're confused, frustrated, sometimes panicking, but they're asking the wrong question. The good men didn't go anywhere. They're right here. They just stopped participating in a game rigged against them, the young men watching. Perhaps most significantly, young men are learning from previous generations' mistakes. They're watching their fathers get destroyed in divorce courts, their uncles living in small apartments after losing everything in settlements, their older brothers perpetually criticized and unhappy in relationships, and they're making rational decisions. Why sign up for this? Why risk everything for someone who'll never be satisfied? Why play a game where the rules guarantee you lose? So they're skipping the traditional relationship path entirely, building careers in their 20s instead of chasing women, developing skills instead of developing relationships, accumulating wealth instead of accumulating romantic drama. They've seen the cost, calculated the benefit, and opted out preemptively. This terrifies women because it means the next generation of men won't even try traditional relationships. The men who might have been good husbands are choosing to never become husbands at all. The pipeline is drying up. The failed shaming tactics. Women in society are trying the usual shaming tactics to push men back into participation. Man up doesn't work when manning up means accepting disrespect. Your missing out doesn't work when we've experienced what we're supposedly missing. You'll die alone doesn't work when alone is demonstrably preferable to what's being offered. You're just scared of commitment doesn't work when we're not scared. We're just uninterested in committing to bad deals. The old control mechanisms are broken. For previous generations, these shaming tactics worked because men had limited alternatives. If you wanted sex, companionship, social validation, you needed a relationship. So you tolerated a lot to maintain access. But modern men have alternatives. Pornography addresses sexual needs. Male friendships address social needs. Work and hobbies address purpose needs. Online communities address connection needs. Therapy addresses emotional processing needs. The monopoly is broken. Women don't control access to everything men need anymore, which means their leverage has dramatically decreased, which means men can actually walk away from bad deals, and they are, in unprecedented numbers. The Panic Response Watch. What's happening in response? Articles about the crisis of single men. Think pieces about male loneliness. Social media posts about men being intimidated by successful women. Dating coaches teaching women how to get him to commit. Books about understanding male psychology. Workshops on becoming a high-value woman. All of this is panic, scrambling to understand why the old playbook isn't working, why men aren't responding to the usual tactics, why the relationship market has shifted so dramatically against women in just a decade or so. But they're still not willing to address the core issue. Modern relationships are bad deals for average men, and men are finally recognizing this. Until that fundamental reality changes, no amount of coaching or shaming will bring men back to the table. The different responses. Men are responding to this reality in different ways. MGTOW, men going their own way. Total rejection of relationships and focus on self. Red pill, understanding female psychology and using it strategically. Passport bros, seeking relationships in other cultures where dynamics are different. Sigma males, building wealth and status while remaining relationship-free. These aren't competing ideologies. They're different responses to the same observation. Modern Western relationships are broken, and men are choosing various forms of non-participation. Some check out completely. Some game the system. Some seek alternatives elsewhere. Some build themselves up while remaining unattached. But all of them share one thing. They've stopped accepting the premise that men need traditional relationships to be happy. The women who get it. Some women understand what's happening and adjust. They bring actual value beyond their physical presence. They treat men with genuine respect and appreciation. They add to men's lives rather than extracting from them. They understand relationships are about mutual benefit, not one-sided taking. These women have zero trouble finding quality men because they're offering something worth having. They're not demanding men meet impossible standards while offering nothing but access to their company. They're genuine partners who make men's lives better rather than worse. But they're rare, and most women aren't willing to adjust. They'll keep demanding more while offering less. Keep criticizing while expecting praise. Keep taking while refusing to give adequately. And they'll end up alone, bitter, wondering what went wrong, never realizing they priced themselves out of the market with impossible expectations and terrible treatment. We've reached the fundamental question: is this sustainable? Can men actually remain happier alone long-term? Or is this just a phase before biological drives push them back into relationships? The evidence suggests, for many men, solitude isn't just preferable short-term. It's genuinely better long-term. The happiness data studies on happiness by relationship status show something fascinating. Married men report higher happiness than single men on average. But this statistic hides something crucial: the distribution. Happy marriages make men very happy. Unhappy marriages make men miserable. Single men cluster in the middle, not ecstatic, but consistently content. They're not hitting the highs of good marriages, but they're also not suffering the lows of bad ones. And here's the key. In modern dating markets, the odds of finding a genuinely good marriage are low for average men. So you're not choosing between definite happiness and definite loneliness. You're choosing between guaranteed contentment, solitude, and a lottery ticket with terrible odds relationship. More men are doing this math and choosing the guaranteed option, not because they're bitter or damaged, but because they're rational. Why gamble everything on terrible odds when the consolation prize of solitude is actually pretty good? The long-term single men who've been happily single for 5, 10, even 20 years report something surprising. It doesn't get worse over time, it gets better. You get more skilled at living alone, more comfortable with your own company, more efficient at meeting your own needs, more invested in your friendships, hobbies, and purpose. The first year alone after a long relationship is difficult. You're breaking habits, adjusting to independence, dealing with occasional loneliness. But after that adjustment period, something shifts. Solitude stops being the absence of relationship and becomes a positive state in itself. You're not alone in the sense of lacking something. You're independent, autonomous, free. Your life is full, just full of different things than relationships provide. And for many men, this fullness is more satisfying than what relationships offered. The biological override. But what about biological drives? Don't men need sex, companionship, pair bonding? Here's what men are discovering. These needs can be met without traditional relationships. Sexual needs, managed through various means including pornography, casual encounters, or simply lower priority. Companionship needs, met through male friendships and social hobbies. Pair bonding needs, sublimated into other attachments like career, projects, or causes. These aren't perfect substitutes for relationships, but they're good enough. And good enough substitutes that don't come with massive downsides beat perfect solutions that destroy your peace, drain your finances, and make you miserable. The point of no return. Many men reach a point of no return with modern relationships. After experiencing the peace of solitude for several years, the thought of returning to relationship chaos feels impossible. It's not that they hate women or fear intimacy. It's that they've adapted to a better way of living and can't imagine going back. Think about it. If you haven't been criticized in 3 years, can you really go back to daily criticism? If you've controlled your own time completely for 5 years, can you really return to negotiating every decision? If your stress levels have been low for a decade, can you really return to walking on eggshells? For many men, the answer is no. They've crossed a threshold. They're not waiting for the right woman to change their mind. They've genuinely stopped wanting what relationships offer badly enough to accept what relationships cost. The future relationship market. This creates an interesting prediction for the future. As more men opt out, the remaining men in the dating market gain leverage. Women will have to compete more intensely for fewer available men. Standards will have to adjust. Treatment will have to improve. The bad deal will have to become less bad. Or alternatively, more women will adapt to being alone. Learn to find fulfillment outside relationships the way men are doing. Build lives that don't require romantic partnership. Accept that modern dating dynamics make relationships unlikely for average women too. Either way, the old normal isn't coming back. The cat is out of the bag. Men know they can be happy alone. Women are learning they can't take men's participation for granted. The entire relationship market is restructuring around these new realities. The honest assessment. Look at your own life honestly. If you're single, are you actually unhappy? Or have you just been told you should be unhappy? When you strip away social expectations and biological pressure, what do you actually want? Many men discover they don't actually want relationships as much as they thought. They wanted sex, which can be obtained elsewhere. They wanted companionship, which male friends provide. They wanted validation, which comes from achievement. They wanted purpose, which comes from work and hobbies. The relationship itself, the daily cohabitation, the emotional labor, the constant negotiation, they don't actually want that. They were pursuing relationships to get other things, not because they valued relationships themselves. Once you realize this, once you see clearly that you are chasing relationships for secondary benefits that can be obtained more cheaply elsewhere, the choice becomes obvious. Why pay premium prices for a bundle when you can buy the individual items you actually want? The message for men. You are allowed to choose solitude. You are allowed to decide that relationships aren't worth the cost. You are allowed to build a fulfilling life that doesn't include romantic partnership. You're allowed to be genuinely happy alone. You're not broken. You're not damaged. You're not immature or commitment phobic or emotionally unavailable. You've simply done an honest cost-benefit analysis and made a rational choice based on your actual priorities and the actual options available. Stop accepting disrespect. Stop tolerating constant criticism. Stop trying to meet impossible standards. Stop dating people who treat you like a rehabilitation center. Stop believing that suffering equals love. Stop sacrificing your peace for someone else's chaos. Set boundaries and enforce them absolutely. She starts a fight over nothing. Leave the room. She criticizes constantly. End the conversation. She treats you with contempt. End the relationship. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept. The final truth. Women never thought men would be happier alone. They built their relationship strategies on the assumption of male need. They believed men's desire for sex and companionship would keep them perpetually available, willing to accept bad treatment for access to female company. They miscalculated. Modern men have alternatives their grandfathers didn't. We can meet our needs without romantic relationships, We can build fulfilling lives while single. We can choose peace over partnership without sacrificing happiness. This isn't the end of relationships, but it is the end of men accepting bad relationships out of fear of being alone. It's the end of women being able to treat men poorly while assuming they'll stay anyway. It's the end of the old relationship market where women held all the leverage and men had no choice but to participate. The new reality is simple. Men don't need relationships to be happy. We want them when they add value, but we don't need them for survival. And once we realize bad relationships subtract value rather than add it, we choose solitude, not as a temporary protest, but as a genuine preference. Women are panicking because they're finally understanding this. The men they took for granted are gone. The men they criticized relentlessly are choosing peace. The men they expected to always be available have discovered something better, themselves. If you've chosen peace over chaos, write in the comments, solitude over suffering, because that's the choice men are making, not because we hate women or fear commitment, but because we've discovered that being alone with our peace is better than being in relationships that destroy it. And no amount of shaming, guilting, or social pressure will change that calculation. The future belongs to men who choose wisely, who refuse to accept disrespect, who value their peace over validation, who understand that sometimes the best relationship is the one you don't have.